colleagues will ask questions relating to specifics in your CV.
Chairman, let me thank you for the opportunity and to wish the nominee well, but to refer him to the President's letter of 11th January 2018. The President spells, and your name is Mr. Martin Alamisi Benz Kaiser Amidu. The President spells his Benz with an E. In your CV, the E is lost. Which one should this committee go with? And would you want to give us your name as it should be?
My name as it should be is the one on my CV. And you know, Honorable Member, that the name is a nonsense syllable. And when the syllables are misplaced, it has nothing to do with the real name. It is Benz without an E, and I believe it's typographical error.
In your introduction in the CV, you stated you were born in 1951. May you share with this committee the day and month together with the year of your birth?
Well, as I told you, my mother got pregnant in Hafasni and delivered me in Kadama. And then when later on we discovered the record on which my father had written my birthday, it's supposed to be a Thursday. That's why I'm called Alamisi. And that's the record which my father wrote in his illiterate handwriting. It was among his things when we saw it. I used to debate with Professor Amidu that he was not far older than me until we discovered the record, which shows that I was born on 6th September. And when we checked later, it's true that 6th September was a Thursday. You know that there was no births and deaths in Navrongo, let alone Kadama.
So the record is correct, 6th September.
The record is correct.
That's all.
Yeah, in fact, it is the Gold Coast. It was a protectorate, not part of the colony.
So you were born 6th September 1951, per the CV submitted to this committee?
Yes, in the Northern Territories of the protectorate.
Which part of the protectorate?
The protectorate, you know, the protectorate joined Ghana on 6th, 1956, during the plebiscite, if you look at the history of this country.
And then before I yield to the Honorable Ablakwa, page 2 of your CV, you have 1966-1971 school certificate GCE O-level uncollected from the school. You have the same thing repeated for 1971-1973 uncollected from the school. What accounts for that, and what explanation do you have for the committee?
The explanation is simple. You will see in my CV that I wrote GCE A-level in 1972 in Tamale. It took more than 2 years for that certificate even to be posted to the Workers' College for me to collect it. So when I went to Navrongo School, I was the person with the highest grades entrance form in Navrongo School that year. But there were people who had done better, who had even 5-1s and 6-1s in Navasco, right? So I entered Navrongo School with that aggregate, which was the highest aggregate. Then I wrote the A-level, as you see, in 72. And then I got very credible grades, which had never been gotten in the North before, right? So I entered Legon, by which time the O-level from commercial school had not arrived from the exams council. And the Navasco records took a long time to arrive. But in those days, the universities worked with the authentic records from the West Africa Exams Council, upon which they admitted. So I never went back to commercial school to ask for it, because I really didn't think that I needed it. But I'm still there because it's my alma mater. And I was one of their best students, and I thought that they would need it for posterity. Navasco too is lying there. I'm told some VNI man was in my village on the 1st. And I thought he would go to the Vasco. The headmaster would have taken my file and given it to him. There's no reason why I didn't go for it. It's just that I didn't think that I should go to Nabasco asking for the certificate when I had gone to Legon, they had authenticated the results. I brought all the other certificates, but because they are still with Nabasco and commercial school, if you ask the Minister for the Interior, he will tell you I was not just a passing by student. I was very good.
Thank you. We will not call evidence at this table.
No, I was their prefect.
I'm sorry. Yes, Honorable Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Martin Amidu, yes. I have a few questions for you on your CV for clarity purposes. On page, under bullet 4, employment history, you've written Executive Director of the Not-for-Profit Citizens Vigilance for Justice.
Yes.
When did you establish this, and is it a non-profit organization?
It was registered on the it was registered to commence business on the 27th of September 2017. It's registered at the Registrar General. I was using a non-registered organization as citizen vigilance, but then I decided that I will establish it as a non-for-profit. So I applied to the Registrar General's Department, and then I was one of the directors. And I never knew at that time that I would succumb to accept to leave it so early. But it's registered at the Registrar General's Department. If I had known, you would have asked it, I would have even brought the certificates and everything. By 17th September 2017.
Okay. Again, under conferences or conference and capacity building programs attended, A, you've written head of delegation. When you go to C, head of delegation as well for these international conferences, I want to clarify which delegation. Is it the Ghanaian delegation that you headed to these conferences, or in what capacity were you leading the delegation?
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't write it well, and I accept that in communication theory, the one who communicates is responsible for the meaning. But I assume that being the Attorney General at the time, I will lead the Ghana delegation. That's why I just put head of delegation, because that was it's only the Ghana delegation I could have led. But I should have clarified it, admittedly. And all the head of delegation I have been is as either a minister of Ghana or a deputy minister of the Ghana delegation. But I assumed it. I just subsumed that because I held those positions, it will follow, but it appears it doesn't.
Right. Thank you for the clarification. I want to ask, this is the last one. Under educational background. Under educational background.
Yes, madam.
Under G and H, I want to see clarification. No, it's G and I, rather. G and I. Yeah. One, you're telling us University of Ghana, into bracket, Ghana School of Law, and the year is 1976 to 78.
Yes. I
presume that's when you were called to the bar. But distinctively, you've stated in I as well, 1978. Enrollment on the lawyers of the Republic of Ghana. Maybe it's different from when I was called to the bar. So I want to ask you, was it done separately, and why did you decide to split the two?
Madam, thank you for the question. In our time, the University of Ghana ran the professional law course on behalf of the Ghana Law School. So if you are looking for my transcripts, you won't get them at the Ghana Law School. You get them at the University of Ghana. But in the final year, you go to the Ghana Law School for 3 months for lectures, and then you do the moot court there. That is why I put the University of Ghana in brackets, Ghana School of Law. And it was a 2-year position. Many people write BL and all that by their name. I know that at the General Legal Council meeting, of which I was a member, headed by Justice Aban, he said that lawyers should be permitted to use BL. But the Legal Profession Act requires what I have stated there. It doesn't recognize BL. Lawyers are not given any BL. They are given the certificate I've quoted is verbatim from the Legal Professions Act. So the certificate I've brought indicates there is a certificate qualifying me. People used to think this certificate was the pre-law course. So if you had a BA and you were coming to read law, they call themselves QCL. That's not it. It is the final certificate you get upon the completion of the 2-year course, which the Act, qualifies as qualifying certificate. So that's why you see it separate. So I was given that certificate. When you get that certificate, then you go through the process for enrollment. And when you are enrolled, you sign the roll of lawyers, and you are given a certificate of enrollment on the roll of lawyers. So this 78 qualifying certificate was issued in September 78. But we had to wait to the 11th November 78 to be enrolled and issued with a certificate of enrollment on the roll of law. In fact, I'm quoting directly what is on the certificate. And since I was asked to bring certificates, I decided that I'll quote precisely. I'm a little bit conservative. I don't like cutting shortcuts.
Thank you. I would suggest that in your answers, try to be a little less conservative and cut them short for us.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Member for Northern.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to the Honorable Martin Amidu. I will want to begin from the second page of the Honorable nominee's CV. Under the item G, University of Ghana, 1973 to 1978, LLB Ons. The records we have here in the House, the last you appeared before this committee on the 18th of February 2010. The records show that Mr. Martin Amidu was born on 6 September 1951. He obtained his Bachelor of Laws, LLB, in 1976 from the University of Ghana, Legon. That's quoting from the Hansard of Thursday, 18 February 2010. But here on your CV, we have 1978. Just want to find out from the Honorable nominee for clarification. What should be the proper record?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I didn't go to a regular secondary school. I went to a commercial institute. And in the commercial institute, we have called what we call accidental slips and omissions. If you look at H, my entry into the Ghana School of Law is 76 to 78. So if you read the CV within context, it's easy to see the accidental slip in omission that are really, and the LLB is 3 years. So this is just an accidental slip of omission due to typographical slip, which in commercial practice is very normal. So if you, as I explained, It's an accidental slip and omission.
Accepted, Chairman. It's an error. The record shows. Please proceed. Sorry, Honorable nominee.
And I wish that you correct it to reflect.
Thank you. The correction will be carried out.
The age shows.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. We'll correct it accordingly. And employment history, Mr. Chairman, I ask this question because we have two entries here. Executive Director of the Not-for-Profit Citizen Vigilance for Justice, Civic Justice, since 27th September 2017, and Public Service Pensioner Constitutional Defense Activism, February 2012 to date. But taking note of Section 13.7 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 959, it states the Special Prosecutor shall not, while holding office, hold any other public office or engage in any commercial venture, unquote. Mr. Chairman, just finding out from the Honorable nominee if he intends to keep these positions as he has entered under employment history, bearing in mind Section 13.7 of the Office of Special Prosecutor Act.
Mr. Chairman, my position is that, and I have made arrangements to relinquish my position as an executive director, not because I think it will conflict with Act 959, because Act 959 says I should engage in commercial ventures. So a not-for-profit won't be a commercial venture. But I thought that for the avoidance of doubt, I should relinquish it and allow the legal entity to go on. You know, the entry about pensioner, the real situation is that because I joined the PNDC as a secretary in 82 and served for more than 20 years and paid the Social Security benefits, I was entitled to payments after that. That really didn't make me a public officer under Article 191. It's just part of the pension, as we say, if you contribute. I still remain a lawyer who decides that he would rather do activism than practice. So that is the position. I have made my contributions more than 20 years. I reached 60, and then I decided to take the claim. But then that doesn't really make me a public servant. I was a political office holder, and I'm now a private citizen. And indeed, they even say that market women can apply for Social Security as long as they pay the requisite money. When they reach 60, they can go. So that's the explanation for the public service thing. And so the impression that I was like a chief director should be disabused. I was a political office holder, not a public servant under 191.
Grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on page 3 of the CV, Amidu Consults, 2002 to June 2009. But after that, there is no other mention of Amidu Consults. Are you able to please tell this committee what the current status is of Amidu Consults?
Mr. Chairman, if you recall, I was vetted in 2010, and this very issue arose. I think the current Minister for Education raised it, and I said Amidu Consult was deregistered in 2006. It was deregistered in 2006, but I had done some consultancy work for ISODEC and others. So this Honorable House said that, okay, even though ISODEC had paid my tax, I had to pay some additional tax. So that was done. And that was the condition on which I was approved. And then I became a minister. Amidu Consult deregistered. I have left 2012. It's defunct. I don't practice law, which is a choice. I decided to be an activist, even though the knowledge of the law is still in my head.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the honorable nominee, under his biodata and personal profile, under the numbers of children, was very generous with this committee, provided us details of the ages of the children. But under marital status, we only have married. Are you able to share with this committee?
What more did you want to know? that is disallowed. No. If there's another question, receive please.
No, Chairman, there's a reason for the question.
No, Sammy, still on the children, Chairman, page 1, adults 35, 41, and 43 years respectively. Who are those? And respectively qualifies for who? We need to know. 31 in respect of who, and 43 in respect of who.
Mr. Chairman,
just adults is not
names
sufficient.
Are in respect of from senior, junior to senior. And the question was children. Honestly, I was going to say no child. And I use adult children because I have no responsibility for these people as children. So as far as I'm concerned, they are not my children. If you go to the UK and tamper with anybody of this age, you go to jail. So it's because of the ambiguity of the question that I put those names there. But my family,
an ambiguous question deserves ambiguous answer.
My family matters are private. You know,
Mr. Member, I think it's sufficient. I mean, what is interesting is the children and the adults. Now I get the import because you're asking whether if he has children, but he has adults. Yes, Honorable Obiawa.
No, I'm not done, Mr. Chairman. The final one from me. The final.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The final one from me.
Obi, hold on. Yes, Sammy, your last one.
The final question on the CV from me, Honorable Chairman. It's on page 3. I noticed an overlap when the Honorable nominee was Deputy Attorney General and Minister of Justice. He has an entry here, MA Conflict Resolution, Antioch University, McGregor, Ohio, USA, 1999 to 2001. Just want to find out for clarity if this entry is accurate. Probably it was a sandwich program or a correspondence course, because at this time you were Deputy Attorney General. Just for clarity, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, it was a cohort course, which as Deputy Attorney General, I undertook. I went to the U.S. for 2 weeks at a time, 2 occasions. I was in cohort 12. The rest of the course was online. And because it was online, it took that period of time to complete. The certificate, I was asked to bring out certificates, is here.
Very well, Honorable Obiama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Martin Amidu, welcome. You have a very rich CV. Some parts are quite interesting. But the first one I want to ask is, you said you were a presidential advisor on legal affairs, July 2009 and February 2010. In what respect were you a presidential advisor?
The then President, Professor John Evans Adam Mills, had nominated me as ambassador. And then, for personal reasons, I couldn't take that appointment. So he invited me and offered me presidential advisor on legal affairs. We had been friends for more than 30 years, and so I accepted it. And I gave him legal advice. My office was in the castle, and his secretaries knew how close we were and how frequently I was called upon to advise him. But it was for a short period, and then I think there was discomfort, so I was moved to Interior.
So, were you under the Presidential Office Act? Your appointment, did it come under the Presidential Office Act?
I think so.
You're not sure?
The letter is there, just that I didn't know that you would need it. But there was a letter signed by John Henry Newman, appointing me as a presidential advisor to the president. It didn't state the legal affairs. But when I came, that was the assignment I was given.
Okay. The leadership positions held. This is just an aside. I've seen vice presidential candidate, secretary, junior common room, the general secretary. But I thought after the elections, you also had a position, shadow vice president.
That is disallowed. On CV, yes. No, minority, majority.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. I want to take the honorable nominee back to an issue that has just been discussed. And I think it's important because this is a house of records so that we get it clear. Mr. Chairman, I don't think it will be fair to let it pass. If viewers are listening and the interpretation...
Honorable member, kindly ask the question.
Yes, that's what I'm getting to, Mr. Chairman. Please, if you'll be patient with doesn't think that they are his children. But I think that we have to set that record straight. Does the nominee agree with me, please?
Mr. Chairman, Shakespeare says there are as many opinions as there are men. In my learning and understanding, children are children. When they attain the age of majority, they legally are adults and no more children. So my understanding is that I have no control over these three adults. And if I attempt to control them, I could be in legal trouble. That's why I call them adults. But biologically and legally, when they were kids, they were my children. That's my opinion.
So do they cease being your offspring? Do they cease being your children? Because
they don't cease being my offspring. They are my adult companions for whom I will do anything because of the blood connection between me and them. But they are not, strictly speaking, children.
Right, Mr.
And as I said, there are as many opinions as there are men.